next episode of OPOstories from the NBA. My guest is Maciej Lampe. Hello, Maciej.
Good evening. Hi.
Former NBA player, Polish national team as well. This conversation is special for me because today is the first anniversary of my podcast. A year ago,
Nice.
I've got first conversation with Michael Cooper. So I'm glad that next year I start with conversation with the Polish player with NBA history. And Maciej, how did basketball appear in your life? Because you were born in Łódź and grew up in Sweden. How did the basketball looks in Sweden in the time when you grew up?
Yeah, so we moved to Sweden when I was 5 years old. And then growing up there, first I started playing ice hockey. It was a common thing in Sweden. Soccer, I was a goal. A lot of immigrants from that part of the world started moving into my neighborhood in Sweden, and they started playing pickup games on the block, down in the neighborhood, and I started playing with them every day. Grew up with another Swedish guy, or Croatian Swedish guy, that also played in the NBA, Damir Markota. I played in the EuroLeague as well. He's still playing. So we grew up together in the same neighborhood, and then joined a good Swedish basketball team. Was fortunate to have a good youth coach when I was young, Joachim Samuelsson. And we had a great success with our youth team. It was the age group of 1985. That's the year I'm born. We won everything in Sweden. We won basically everything in Scandinavia, and even played in tournaments in Russia and Lithuania. I remember when I was young, we played against Kleza, played for the Denver Nuggets, a lot of players. So I was very fortunate from a young age to be in a good basketball environment. And it kind of kicked off from there, with so many people from former Yugoslavia living in my neighborhood in Sweden. Summer days, we would just go down and play basketball every day, and it kind of took over the other sports that I was doing and just stuck with that.
I was curious about the Swedish basketball, because when we are looking at the players who got some success and play in the NBA, we've got Jonas Jerebko. There was the Jeff Taylor, as I remember. And I guess that Swedish player more well known from playing in the European leagues. So when we look at the Swedish national team, was it with the Sweden-born players, or there were a lot of players with the backgrounds like you, with the Poland and also from the Balkans? How it looks?
Yeah, Sweden does a great job when it comes to people immigrating into Sweden. We like me and my family, we didn't come there because of war, but we came there to have a better economic situation. My dad worked extremely hard, and that was our reason for going there. And there's a lot of people that are not born in Sweden but later live there 10 plus years and get the passport. For me, when I was young, I think it was very good. For my brother, however, my brother is 9 years older than me, so he was already 14 when we moved, and it was a bit harder for him because he had already his whole life established in Poland. He had he had his friends, and his mentality was already Polish. So when you change countries and change cultures at that age, it's a little bit difficult. But back to your question, yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, I remember when they wanted me and Damir, and there was also one other guy involved who was no longer playing basketball. He was the point guard of our team. He was Turkish, so it was us three, and they were trying to convince us to basically play for the Swedish national team. I remember we went to play an unofficial tournament with the Swedish national team up north somewhere, which I participated in. And then it was a big decision for me of basically playing with people that I knew, in a country that I'm pretty much comfortable in and people know me, or taking the leap and taking a chance on Poland back in those days. You know, there was a lot of talks at home about it, and I remember telling my dad, hey, you know, these are my friends. I kind of want to play with them, you know. And he would always tell me, he was like, just wait, because you're gonna have the option of playing for both. You're gonna be able to decide. So he said that, you know, let's go to Poland and let's check out the basketball there. And so that's exactly what we did. We went to Łódź, and I represented Łódź in a basketball tournament, and that was played. I don't remember where it was played, but it was like all the big cities played against each other. So me and Paweł Malesa, who was a huge prospect when we were young, cadet player and junior national team player, was also on the team in Łódź. And when I saw this guy, I was like, I guess basketball is on another level in Poland. You know, the guys were bigger, the guys were stronger. They were just playing better basketball. So after that tournament, we decided that we should always try to compete against the best, so that I can be the best version of myself. And also, you know, family had an impact on that, and we decided to go with Poland.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at the beginning of your journey with the basketball, who was your favorite player that you want to be in the future, or learn his moves?
Honestly, I grew up watching Michael Jordan. I mean, the Utah series was big for me in my career, in my childhood. That was, you know, but he was just, I mean, he was just another level, you know. It was somebody to look up to, definitely. And I remember when Kobe Bryant came first on the scene, I was still young, and everybody was like, oh, this kid is 18 years old. And he was in the slam dunk contest. So whenever Kobe came on the scene, that was a big inspiration with his shoes. I remember I played in his Adidas shoes when he was back then with Adidas. Vince Carter was another guy. I mean, these were just guys you looked up to, like NBA player wise. But I mean, I drew inspiration out of all types of people. I drew inspiration out of players that played in the Swedish league, you know, because I was always in the gym. So whenever the first team had practice, I would be there. I would watch him, and if there was an athletic guy, I would be like, "Wow, how do you manage to jump that high?" I remember when I couldn't dunk. Not that I was ever, you know, a crazy dunker, but I remember just putting like a chair in front of the rim and trying to take off from the chair, a little bench. My dad was good at this, because my dad also told me, you know, you can. He always told me it's very easy to look at somebody and see what he does bad, like basketball wise. Oh, this guy can't shoot, or this guy can't go left or something. But it's harder to see what they do good. And he always tried to try to make me focus on the things that players that I had around me did well. Like, for example, the guards, the way they use their speed, and different things like that. So, I mean, there was a lot of players.
Mm-hmm. And did your father also play basketball, and you treat him like a person who would also be playing basketball in the future? Because I'm asking because yesterday I read the article from for lunch again, MVP magazine, and there was a story about the Dario Saric and his father. All because Dario wanted to play in the NBA. It was his dream, and his father all the time pushed him down and say, "You are not ready. You should play here in Europe," and so on. How looks your father's impact in your career?
Yeah, I mean, my dad, me and him had a relationship that could look a bit awkward from a third person's point of view. So I remember I would have like 40-point games, and he would say, "Oh, you could have scored 44. You missed this. You did that." And a lot of the times, even when I'm speaking with younger players now, and I'm speaking to coaches, they'll be like, "Oh, he got a crazy dad." the crazy dad figure, you know. And for me, in my personal experience, I mean, it was a big fuel to the fire. You know, growing up, my dad used to always tell me that he tried it to make it in professional sports, but wasn't really able to make it. My brother tried. My grandfather was an athlete, so he basically told me that you're coming from a line of athletes who tried to make it professionally, and it was always it was always competitive. He was very competitive, but like my mom would take it in the wrong way. My mom would say, "Oh, get off his back, you know, he did great." But my dad really knew how to pull my strings, you know, because I mean, he's my dad, you know, and a lot of people that you talk to that have gone through that type of environment or that type of upbringing have had father figures that have been tough on them, you know. I know Dario just from playing against him, but it sounds like, you know, the father figures always have the possibility of pushing you further, you know, because sometimes coaches can be very positive in a way, you know, but it's nothing like when your dad tells you something, you know. It's a different level of psychology, I guess.
So as you said, I think that your father knew you, who you are, what like a kind of personality you've got, and I guess that it helped you also to develop yourself, not putting you down and destroying your dreams.
Well, I mean, going back to that, there's a thin line between pushing you to the limit and basically not going over it, so you break down. I mean, my dad was he was tough on me in sports. I mean, I remember when I played hockey, and it was time to buy new gear, you know, because I grew and the gear that I had got too little. And he sat me down and he told me, he's like, "Hey, this gear is expensive, you know. I'm gonna buy you the gear, but I'm gonna buy it for you to play 4 or 5 more years. I'm not gonna buy you gear every 2 years." So he bought me gear that was like 3 sizes too big, like the shorts were too big, and I looked ridiculous. And I told him, I was like, "Dad, why did you do that to me?" And he told me, he's like, "I don't believe you're gonna be successful in hockey." You know, and for me to hear that when I was young was it was difficult. It was difficult, but he kind of realized it sooner than me. You know, I mean, I was tall, lanky, skinny. You know, he came to practices. He probably saw that this wasn't gonna be my future, and he kind of, you know, he kind of told me that in his own way. I mean, there's a thin limit with that, but I do think that, I mean, some dads probably go a little bit overboard with stuff, but I do think also that for most people and for most kids, the father figure toughness is definitely needed sometimes.
When did you realize that you will play in Real Madrid? Because did they scouts came to the Sweden and looked you when you were playing, or it was just unexpected move from their side?
No, so after we chose the Polish national team, we had a tournament in Portugal where we played France, Portugal. I think it was just France, Portugal, and us, and we won the tournament. So they had a scout supposedly there from Real Madrid. I played great, got the MVP of the tournament, and when I got back home, at the time, my mother's brother was living with us for whatever reason for like 2 months, and he told yeah, he told me, he's like, "Hey, Real Madrid just called." When I came back from practice, I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, the Real Madrid basketball team called, say they wanted to talk to you." And I was just like, "What are you talking about?" You know? And he's like, "The team, Real Madrid from Spain, called you, say they want to talk to you, but you weren't home. So I told them you'll be home later." And I was like, when did you tell him? When did you tell him I was going to be home? You know? And so anyway, they called later, and they were doing their, you know, their thing. This was back when they first started really recruit foreign players foreign youth players really to join their youth programs. So actually, it was me, a French kid, Samuel Nadeo. I don't know if anybody remembers him. He retired. He lives in France, in Paris. And it was a Czech guy, Ondra Starosta. It was like 220 or something. And so us three kind of signed the contract later on. And we kind of started what would later be, I mean, one of the best youth programs by any European club, I think.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, that was, yeah.
And did you, before that, that Real Madrid called you and decided to sign with you a contract, did you have a preparation regarding the football team, Barcelona or Real Madrid?
No, I knew from playing in tournaments abroad that I'm not coming from a basketball country. I'm coming from Sweden. I knew that, for a fact, because I mean, I was kind of, as soon as I really started playing basketball, I was like the best player, because I was tall, I could move, I could shoot, I could do different things. So I had a buzz about me in Scandinavia, but I knew that Sweden was on the very low end of basketball. So I used to tell my parents, if there's going to be an opportunity for me to go abroad and play, I wanted to go. And at first they were like kind of taking it as a joke, but then it actually happened. And honestly, I mean, anybody could have called back in those days. I mean, it could have been Madrid, Barcelona, Partizan, I don't care. I wanted to go. So they were the first ones, and that's how it started.
I think that one thing is the competition which you got before you reached the level when Real Madrid decided to sign a contract with you, that you have to be the best to beat the other players and prospects. And how it was when you played in Real Madrid, because you mentioned about those two players, foreign players who played there. But I guess that there was also young, talented players in Real Madrid from the Spain, as well, and other young players in different team. How look competition at this level?
The competition was good. I mean, it wasn't done at in like a perfect scenario. When I first got there, I couldn't play in games because I didn't have the license. I wasn't Spanish, so everything was done kind of like not super professionally on their part when it came to my situation. Keep in mind, I was one of the first ones, who kind of changed countries and went to Madrid. This was in 2000, 99. This was 21 years ago. And the competition was better. The style of practices were different. It really gave me like the next chapter in my development, So looking back at my 3 years with Real Madrid, although I had a big buyout when I later got drafted, I always look at it like they gave me all the tools that I needed. And especially Scariolo. I mean, Sergio Scariolo took a leap on me. He had injuries with the first team. I think they really sensed my love for basketball, my love for the game, because I always wanted to practice. I always wanted to play. First when I got there, I remember coming to the gym and the second team was practicing. And I was like, I want to play with this team. And they're like, no, you're going to play with the juniors. And I'm like, well, I kind of want to play with them. And they're like, no, we want you to play with the juniors. And playing with the juniors, I felt like it was good, but I really should have played in EVA. EVA was the third or fourth, really third, I think, division back in Spain in those days. And I really wanted to play there. So sometimes I would practice with the junior, with the EVA, and sometimes with the senior team. I never said that I couldn't come. That's one thing that I think they really liked. I lived over an hour away, really, by train. And some days I would go to school. Some days I would have practiced before we go to school. And then I would go to school. I would have practice either with the second team or with the youth team, a junior team. Then I would go home. And at times I would get a phone call that Scariolo wants me with the first team. So all of a sudden we have to go in the car, get in the car, drive 30, 40 minutes to get to the arena so I can practice with the first team. But yeah, it was, coming from first Sweden and then to Poland, seeing those two worlds of basketball being different. Now going to Spain definitely gave me like another way of seeing the game.
And you still develop your game, and you were passionate. You were young, and that's why New York Knicks decided to drafted you in 2003 NBA draft. You were 30th pick, first in the second round. But before the draft, there was expectation that you will be selected earlier. How did you feel during NBA draft night when you heard that you are the first, but in the second round?
Yeah, so going back to my situation with Madrid, when I first signed with Madrid, everybody thought, oh, I've made it. He's 15 years old. He's going to play for Real Madrid. He's going to be a star, blah, blah, blah. We signed a contract with them where, I don't want to say we got cheated, but we were promised some things that later didn't happen. So I signed the 8-year contract with Real Madrid, and looking at it when you're 15 years old, you're like, 24, maybe I'm going to be a good basketball player. But things, evolved and things went a lot faster for me. I mean, in those 3 years, I played a couple of EuroLeague games. I played in the Spanish league with the senior team. I really started to play well, and people really started hearing my name, especially NBA scouts and stuff, because of playing in the EuroLeague game at the age of 16 or whatever it was. That gets out there. And so with that in mind, I got lent my last season in Madrid. I got lent to play in a second division team in Spain, which was LEB, which at that time was like the 5th best league in Europe, they used to say. So it was a good league, where me and Andre Turner, a point guard, came in, and we brought that team around, and we made it to the semifinals of LEB. So during that time, NBA scouts started coming. This is the time when I first signed with an agent. My first contract, I didn't have an agent. My dad was arguing with Madrid a lot about the contract that we had. We were kind of living on monthly to monthly basis. I had a huge buyout. So the deal was to kind of sign with this agent and then go to the United States and do the practices with the top teams in the draft. So the lottery picks, I would go and practice with them and have individual workouts and see how I did. And then there was a date that you had to decide by if you want to keep your name in the draft or not. So the workouts went good. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, some of them went worse than others, but overall, I had potential. I was 18 years old. I was 25 kilos. I was big because I thought that I needed to lift weights and be strong to play in the NBA. So I put on weight. I had soft hands. I could hook shot. I could shoot. So when they saw that, they saw my potential. And in the media, a lot of people had me going higher. But I had a $2 million buyout when I got drafted to Real Madrid, which I had to pay out of my contract, and which later on I had to pay out of one of my contracts when I played in Russia. So it wasn't like, for me, the NBA experience was another chapter in my development, really. Because, I was 18, I was 18. I did 3 years in Madrid. I kind of saw how things worked on a real professional EuroLeague team. Sasha Djordjevic was there, Tabak, Tarlac, Alberto Herreros. We had big names on the team, and I was traveling with them. I was with them. So I saw that. And those 3 years in the NBA, I went by myself. I went without my parents. I felt like that's something that I needed to do for myself because, you know, I was kind of tired of my dad fighting with the club. The situation at home wasn't very stable. So at 18, I decided to go by myself to the league, and I put in those 3 years there. And then I would say when I got out of the NBA, that's when my professional career really started in Russia. You know, I feel like those years in the league helped me see another side of basketball and another side of preparing and another side of the game. And then when I got to Russia, I did my thing.
When we look at your career, as you said, you're a really young, talented prospect, came to the league, and when I look at this, the question is in my mind: why New York Knicks didn't give you a chance to show your talent? Because you were 18 years old, and usually for these young prospects, you need a couple of years to develop, to showing the potential that you've got. Why Knicks didn't give you the chance to play the Madison Square Garden?
You know, first of all, the Knicks is one of the worst organizations in the NBA. I mean, there's no hiding that. They play at the Madison Square Garden. They practice in Westchester, White Plains, which is like a two-hour car ride. When I got to the team, well, first of all, I had to really being drafted with the 30th pick, which is the first pick of the second round. My contract wasn't guaranteed. I had to prove myself in summer league, you know. So the first summer league we played in was in Boston, where we played the Milwaukee Bucks, and I remember I had to guard Marcus Hayslip, one of the most athletic foremans, I mean, ever. You know, and this guy was catching lobs on me and destroyed me completely. And the first summer league, I was trying to kind of figure out my game, you know, because it's not the same playing in Europe and the United States. So the first summer league went very bad, you know, and, you know, they were like, oh, we don't have to give him a contract, you know, because it's not guaranteed. But in the second one in Utah, we had 2 summer leagues. I kind of figured out the way to play, you know, using mostly my outside shooting. And I did well. I made an all-star team. And that's what got me the contract, you know, and what they said was, you've developed very quickly over a short period of time, so we're gonna give you a deal, you know, this 3-year guaranteed rookie contract, and out of this contract, you're gonna pay your buyout to Real Madrid, and then you're gonna make a little bit of money. So that's what it was. But when I got to the Knicks was full of vets who were in the end of their careers that weren't really keen on seeing somebody young coming in and taking their minutes, to be honest with you. So it wasn't a great team environment, I would say. You know, everybody was kind of looking out for themselves. They were kind of like one of the worst teams in the league. You know, it wasn't really the place for me. It was a tough place for me at 18, you know, and especially coming out to America and being by myself in New York City, you know, it's not easy. Having a lot of hype, you know, from Polish people, from Swedish people, from people, you know, media all over Europe. A kid, 18, just getting drafted. You know, they're putting all these things in your head. They tell you you're gonna be the next Dirk Nowitzki, this and that. So there's a lot of hype and a lot of, you know, things that could get to your head. You know, so when I was in New York, my love for basketball kind of faded away a little bit. You know, I started doing things that I really shouldn't. You know, I started going out. It was the first time, you know, I was by myself. I didn't have to ask my dad or my mom for permission if I could stay out late, you know. So I did a bunch of, you know, a couple of dumb decisions of going out and stuff like that. And yeah, I didn't get a chance. But then I got traded to Phoenix, where we had Mike D'Antoni as a coach. You know, he really helped me out in my NBA career and took me under his wing and kind of explained to me, hey, listen, We understand your talent. We understand your age. We understand what happened in New York. He sat down with me and explained, and I kind of committed to the team. And that's where I had my, most success in the league was under Mike, because Mike really took me under his wing and helped me out.
Mm-hmm. What you said about New York Knicks is not surprised. And also remember when I talked with Bruno Sundov, who also got the experience of being in New York Knicks. He said the same about the organization, and he was also a young, talented player who appeared in the league, but his and yours, your examples of your careers, showing also that how important it is, especially for young player, to be in the organization which is friendly, which give you support. Because Bruno told a lot about how Don Nelson helped him, how he could develop his skills, and this helps him his career. He also mentioned about this that probably he was too young before that he appeared in the NBA, and he was too young for this. What was the most difficult for you as a young person, young player? Or was it only that organization or other difficulties?
I mean, you got to understand that everybody's looking for the next LeBron James. All the teams, all the NBA teams are looking for the next big thing. A lot of draft picks don't work out because guys don't develop the way that people think they're going to develop, or they have issues off the court, or whatever the case may be. It's not easy to find the next Braun, the next Dwayne Wade and stuff like that. So that's on one end. For me, to be honest with you, when I was in those days, my confidence was sky high. There was nothing I was really afraid of. I wasn't afraid of being alone, because I'm in the NBA, man. People are looking up to me. I'm a star. When I was there and I went through those 3 years, I was never really afraid, because I knew that I was young and I was in the NBA, and I knew that I had still a lot to give in basketball, So it was never like, oh, if I don't make it here, I'm not gonna get another chance. Even now, when you look at guys coming out of the NBA playing in Europe, they have a different type of mentality, I guess the hardest thing for me was trying to figure out myself and kind of growing up, but that's something that you just have to go through as a person. Every person has to go through that. But I'm still not like, oh, that was so difficult for me. Oh, this or that. I don't really do that. I feel like in the end of this talk, there's a lot of things that are more difficult than playing sports. Like, I'm doing what I love. I'm blessed enough to been able to play for 21 years now, and I really enjoy the game of basketball. I love the game of basketball. I love competing. It's part of my life. A lot of people tell me like, oh, you should have been an NBA star. You should have, And for me, it's like, bro, you don't know me. You don't know what I went through. You don't know what I had to go through to get out of Sweden. You don't know what I had to go through in Madrid. You don't know what I had to go through in the United States. For me, looking back in my career, I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. I mean, just looking back at some of the players that I played with and competed against, and they're not playing anymore. They retired 4 or 5 years ago. Or players that have had shorter careers. I don't know. I'm just happy with it, and I do feel like my basketball journey is definitely not close to being over. You know, I've been involved in basketball professionally since the age of 15, and even if I retire as a player, I'm always going to be involved. You know, it's something that comes very naturally to me. I understand the game. I see new coaches, young coaches coming in with their vision and how they approach the game. I see coaches from different basketball backgrounds, whether it's American coaches or coaches from Serbia or coaches from Spain or coaches from, other countries, how they view the game. And it's just part of my journey in my career. The most difficult thing, I guess I would say you know what the most difficult thing was for me? The most difficult thing for me was that I've been alone a lot in my career, because not only in the NBA was I alone when I came in there. You know, it's a new culture, it's a new league, everything I did by myself. But then after that, Russia, Spain, Israel, Turkey, China, I've been moving around every 3 years, 2-3 years in every country. And it's not like I've had my parents with me. You know, I've just kind of figured it out by myself all the time. So at times, maybe the worst thing, which is not really like super bad, but that those relationships that you make, for example, the friends that I had in Russia when I was playing, where I made great friendships, then all of a sudden I leave. And it's not the same of talking to somebody on the phone from time to time as being with them on weekly, daily basis. So that would be maybe the hardest thing.
What I really like, in my podcast is the chance to talk with the people who were players and basketball players, because many times as a fans we look only at statistics, at some games, activities during the games. But I'm really curious, especially about you mentioned about Mike D'Antoni, who give you support. And did during your journey in the NBA, you've got also players, front court players who were mentors for you and help you to be a better player?
Yeah. When I was with the Knicks, Kurt Thomas was on my position, and he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. But Kurt was in the end of his career. You know, like I mentioned before, like he really wanted his minutes. So it wasn't like he helped me like crazy. We kind of developed we became friends. But I think that everybody on the Knicks were kind of looking out for themselves. Later on, when I got to the Suns, it was a whole different atmosphere. From the medical staff, from the staff, basically, everybody was just better. I mean, it was just more of like a family atmosphere, coaching wise as well. And I was, fortunate to be around guys like Steve Nash, Amari, Joe Johnson, great players that I was able to learn from.
Mm-hmm. And how about being traded? Because as I said, for fans, it's only okay from this team to this team. How much was for you when you heard that you were traded? What was it, surprise, or did management tell you, we will trade you to that team?
Yeah, the first trade when I got traded from the Knicks to the Suns, I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't even really know that you could get traded, to be honest with you. I was just like, what? Oh, really? And that trade was extremely good for me. It was extremely positive. Things in Arizona were a lot cheaper. I mean, just money-wise, I was renting a small condo in Westchester, and for the same price, I could rent a house in Arizona, So I was like, great, this is great. The team is better. They had Leandro Barbosa, who was another young guy who was in there with me. We had Zarko Cebarkapa. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Of
So
course.
we had a good group of young guys where the organization were really looking out for us and trying to help us develop. The second trade, however, was very tough on me because I had made tremendous progress during that season and during the summer, where I felt like I'm part of this team. You know, I'm part of the Steve Nash, Amari, Joe Johnson. All of these guys was part of the team. And I started getting some minutes in the beginning of the season. And then after a couple of games, I don't know if it was like 10 games or less, my minutes went down. And when my minutes went down and I wasn't playing, I was a bit upset. You know, I had an attitude. You know, I didn't handle it great. You know, I was just a little bit upset in practice because I felt like, hey, man, I've been putting in all this work in the summer. I've developed. I've shown that I can play in practice. And now all of a sudden I'm getting benched. And the decision from the front office, and not really so much Mike D'Antoni, was that we needed more toughness. So all of a sudden they signed Bo Outlaw, who was like this defensive specialist, like a
Orlando
scrappy
Magic
player.
legend.
Yeah, Bo, great guy. So they signed him. My minutes went down, and then like a week later, I got the call that I'm getting traded to New Orleans, and that one hurt. That one hurt, you know, because I remember it was Colangelo that called me, but Mike D'Antoni was there. But Colangelo spoke. Mike didn't even say anything because Mike felt my pain, you know. And so when they asked me if I need anything, I didn't even answer. I was just like, I was kind of in shock, you know. I didn't really say anything back. And so I got traded to like the worst team in the NBA again, you know, an up and coming team with a coach who really likes athletic players, to say the least. You know, Byron Scott. That was tough in the beginning, you know. But I got traded with Jackson Roman. So Roman was also in that trade. That helped me out because we were two guys coming from Phoenix to New Orleans. So that helped me out a little bit. But that one was tough, yeah. And then later on, the next season when I saw Mike D'Antoni in Summer League, he really came over and we talked for a little bit, and he kind of told me, he was like, hey, man, it was, you know, the management's decision. I really believed in you and I still believe in you and stuff like that. So that one was tough, yeah.
For a while, you also play with Antonio McDyess, one of my favorite players from 90s. It was end of his career, but did he still got this dynamo, and he was dunking on the practice and during the game?
You know, I love McDyess, man. He just has this thing about him. You know, he's a star, man. He was coming back from a knee injury in New York. So he was coming back from an injury, and then he started to join practice a little bit. And I really admired that guy. He was a good guy on the team. Yeah, man. He had lost a little bit of that explosiveness. I mean, he wasn't really the same after I don't know if it was his second or third really surgery or whatever he had on his knee. He had lost it a little bit, but as he was coming back, I remember we used to do like one-on-one games because he was coming back after his injury. They were like, Lamp, go play with one-on-one with Dice. And yeah, I remember. Yeah, he was good. He was a beast.
Mm-hmm. And before I will ask you about your career, successful career in Europe, which you mentioned about some facts and situations, I'm just curious, you've got the offers to come back to NBA during the time spent in the Russia and the Spain, and did you got still that feeling that you've got some unfinished job in the NBA?
You know what? Not really, because when I came out of the NBA, I had $60,000 in my bank account, and I had one house that I bought in Arizona in my name. So I didn't make money in the NBA. Mm-hmm. You know, I wasn't, you know, set, not even close to set. And then in my first year in Russia, actually after my first year, where Madrid saw that I'm playing in Euro Cup and stuff, they're like, "Hey, you still owe us 300,000." So they called my agent and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna suspend his FIBA license if he doesn't pay." So out of my first or second contract in Russia, I still had to pay Real Madrid. So for me, yes, there was 2 times during my European career where I had offers of coming in. Most of them were non-guarantee contracts, and some of them, I think 2 of them were guaranteed, but the league minimum, which after taxes for a 3-year NBA vet would be roughly 500,000. I was making a lot more money in those days in Europe. So for me, it was kind of like, yeah, I'm good, I'm gonna pursue my career in Russia. I did very well in Russia with Kimki. I was happy. I was playing. I was becoming an important player.
Mm-hmm. You
And for me to go back and kind of gamble with if I'm ready or not ready, yeah, that's something that I wasn't really keen on doing.
When we look at your European career, it's divide between a Spanish and Russia league. You spent most time there. And how could you compare those 2 leagues? For example, both are the high quality when we look at the European basketball, but are they similar on the level of the quality, and what are the main differences between them?
Well, I think the Russian league is tougher, just because of the culture as well. The traveling in Russia is tougher. The weather, I mean, it's just different. Spain is more, sunny and everything is all good and everything is mañana. It's just a completely different worlds when it comes to culture. Basketball wise, I think Spain is more talented. Definitely, I would say that Spanish players have more talent. I would say that Russian players play with a bit more intensity, maybe. But yeah, 2 very different basketball cultures.
Mm-hmm. You play also in the Israel, in Maccabi Tel Aviv, and also got the experience in CBA, Chinese League. How do you remember that time spending in the Asia? And could you tell us something more about the reality of this league? Because when I look at the roster, usually there are 2 or 3 or 4 players abroad, foreign players. But what about the level, the quality of the league?
Yeah, so it's a very specific situation when it comes to the CBA. First of all, as a foreigner, either you get to the CBA because you have a resume, a good resume of a basketball player, or you get there because you are kind of like a prospect and you're young and you need minutes. But those young guys really don't last well there because it's such a culture shock for most of them. It's a whole nother, it's a whole nother world, to be honest with you. Everything from the way they look at the game. The thing with them is they try to mimic the NBA. Not a lot of Chinese people watch the EuroLeague, or Euro Cup. They watch the NBA. So they try to mimic that. It's 12-minute quarters where the foreigners can't play together in the first quarter and they can't play together in the fourth quarter. So basically, it's a guards league. The guards that have had success over the last couple of years. Darius Adams, you know, I mean, when I was there in my first year, it was always a point guard and a big. Now the teams have tried to sometimes change that and had like a point guard and a 3-man. It depends how the team is structured. Honestly, is in Asia, or not in Asia, in China and the CBA, there's a lot of bad basketball happening. A lot of bad possessions. But for me, it's extremely fun to play there because it's almost like, I wouldn't say it's like you're in the NBA, but it's like you have the green light, you know? You take, 30 shots a game? No problem. You know, for a big, the basic rule for a big in China is that you have to average 20 points and get 20 rebounds a game. That's like the standard for them. You know, if you do that, then he's a good player. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it, and I hope to be back in the CBA next season. I'm working hard for that because also I'm coming to the end of my career, and money-wise, it's two different worlds between Europe and China. You can definitely make a lot more money in China, and also I enjoy playing there. I enjoy it because they're coming from a basketball culture that is, I would say, somewhat new, where they trying still figure it out. Like you could see at the last World Championships, with the clear mistakes they did against many teams, where they just lack details. They lack discipline in certain situations because in their league, it's not really a big focus point because they're trying to mimic kind of like an NBA game where, to be honest with you, it's 82 games in the NBA. And if you look at the intensity of those 82 games, how many of those games are played at a EuroLeague level intensity? I mean, not a lot. Playoffs, of course, but you know, it's a developing league, which for me personally in my career has been a great experience. But I think that it's going to continue to develop, and the more the Chinese national team and the Chinese players experience different types of basketball, whether it is Spanish basketball, Russian basketball, or, you know, these different schools, and also the coaches that come into CBA are basically showing the Chinese players different ways of viewing the game, which is helpful. But I think that they still have a way to go when it comes to the small details of the game, I would say.
Like in NBA logo is based on Jerry West. I guess that if CBA would create this kind of logo, it should be based on the shape of Stefan Marbury, who looks even like not a superstar but the god of this league. And when I look at Stefan Marbury, I think that when he started playing in the CBA, he still was in the NBA shape and could be really good in the USA. How it looks from your perspective? Did he still got this shape of the star and this dribbling and quick moves as NBA player when he was?
It's a symbiosis with Steph and China. Steph has helped Chinese basketball, and Chinese basketball has helped Steph. They've encountered themselves in the beginning at a perfect time for China, I would say. Getting a name like Stefan Marbury to come to play in China is a big deal. Steph had some difficulties in his life when he got, when he couldn't get a deal in the United States, and was able to pursue and fulfill his career in China, where he played extremely well. I mean, he has and had a tremendous love for the game of basketball, you know, and he did extremely well. I don't know how many championships he won with the Ducks, but he did extremely well, and that became, you know, the guy, you know, the symbol kind of or the main guy, the MVP of the Chinese Basketball League for a couple of years there. Then he got also into movies, and he kind of became this icon or this famous person in China. And going back to the logo, yeah, I would have to disagree with you on that one. When it comes to the logo of the CBA, I would put the owl on the logo in front of Steph.
Mm-hmm. And for a while you play again. For a while you play in the Polish Basketball League with the King Wilki Morskie Szczecin. And do you plan also to come back to the Polish national team, or is a closed period in your career?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of sad that the way that it has ended, or I don't know if it's ended. When I was with Szczecin, the guys on the team told me, congratulations. One day they're like, oh, you got the invitation to come to the national team. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm still waiting for my payment and my bonuses for reaching the World Cup, which haven't happened. I spoke to several players on the team about my situation. They're in shock that I didn't get it. It's a strange situation. I really feel like I hope that things can come to to some type of normality. I do feel like, say I retire tomorrow, then the door is closed, you know? Say I play average this season, then I think the door is probably still closed. But say I play well, you know? Then I feel like maybe we should have Lampe on the team. Maybe he could help. Yeah, maybe he could. But then it's like, no, we don't want him because he said the truth about us, you know? I don't know. I just feel like in Poland, it's, I always said it. I feel like Mike has done a great job with the Polish national team. But then looking back at other players and people who have finished their careers with the national team, like, who has really finished on a good note? Like who? Gortat? No. Trebański? No. Like, who has finished with the national team on a good note? I just feel like there's people in positions there that shouldn't be in those positions. When I mentioned my case, where I felt like I got treated disrespectfully because I needed to leave and take care of my body to finish my season in China, and I wasn't at the celebration, and neither the coach or the president communicated that to the team, and it looked like I left, and nobody knew what was going on. It looks bad on me because they didn't communicate it. It's just nonsense, you know. It's things that shouldn't even take place. I think that the Polish national team should always look out for the health of their players, and not only the national team, any team in sports should put a priority on players' health, on their health, and that's something that I needed to do, and I don't regret my decision. I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I don't feel like I disrespected anybody. I feel the other way around. Like, I got disrespected in that situation. I've expressed myself about it. They don't want to address it. I took a chance on playing in Poland because I thought it would be good for me. I thought it would be good for the league. Obviously, I'm not happy with the results that we had. The team didn't really come together well. I mean, we can blame it on a lot of things. A lot of people are saying that, oh, we had the coronavirus. Everybody got the coronavirus the week before the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, it was a mess, man. The team in Szczecin, it was a mess. It was hard to really try to structure anything where, you know, there's one owner who has the salary and everybody's trying to talk in his ear to pretend and kind of persuade him to to do something. Yeah, it wasn't a great experience, but I don't regret it. I definitely don't regret it. I feel like all of my contracts and all of my experience throughout my career have kind of helped me see more things, and helped me go through them and try to deal with them the right way. So I don't regret it, but I'm honestly not happy with it. I'm not happy on how the Polish national team tries to end my career with the national team. How they're going about it. I feel that it's wrong, and I don't really feel that it's wrong because it's only me. I feel that it's wrong for the next guy. It's just things that you don't do, like I remember calling the new president and telling him about the situation that happened at the FIBA window, where I told him that I needed to go to Germany and get an injection in my hip so I could finish my CBA season in the best shape. And his response was, if you want to retire from the national team, that's your choice. That's all he said to me. And at that point, I realized that this guy doesn't care, and it sucks, but I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. It's something that sometimes I think about, and it saddens me that there's no real people in the positions in Poland that would be like, hey, this is wrong. Even when we talk, because we I talk to Koszarek, I talk to Aracel, I talk to Krychaniuk, we're friends, and we talk about the guy that's in charge right now. And everybody says the same thing, like, yeah, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Yeah, he's like this, he's like that. It's bad, it's disrespectful, it shouldn't be like this. But then nothing changes. Most of the guys that haven't played outside of Poland are stuck in this bubble, of this bubble of Poland, where there's always an excuse for everything. I feel like we would play a bad game and the guys would be like, oh, the Americans played bad. Oh, this guy took this shot. Oh, this coach this. And it's not like a reflection of me first. It's always like, oh, this guy, this guy, this guy. For me, it's strange, and I don't really know what the next steps are. I've tried to speak in the media about this, like you are doing your podcast. I'm starting with my podcast. We had Marcin. I don't know if you saw that podcast.
Yes, of course.
So we're gonna do Marcin again next week, probably. Then we're gonna do Trebański. Then we're gonna do Pluta. We're gonna do Polish basketball players, and not only Polish basketball players. I want to do Frederick Weiss because he's from Limoges. I want to talk about him and how he dealt with his career, because the dunk that Vince did on him, that's not easy to get over that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and then he had some family stuff going on, so I kind of want to.
Really sad story about his career, about his hard career and life as well.
Yeah, I just kind of want to share the story of how the life of an athlete could be on a basketball level in Europe and stuff like that, because I think a lot of people don't know. When I was growing up and I was already playing in Russia, when I went back to Sweden and I visited my mom's or my dad's friends, they never really took my career seriously. They were like, oh, he's playing basketball, dribble and shoot. They don't really know what goes into that. And with Frederick, he went through a lot after that. I mean, that's not something you just get over, a dunk like that. And I want to talk about mental health with him and how he was able to, to go on from that. But yeah, I kind of got off subject a little bit here. Sorry. The Polish national team. I hope that things can get cleared up. I think my situation with Mike was that we disagreed on that of what happened. I was 100% sure that he would be, hey, go take care of your body, finish the season strong. You've done what you had to do. We qualified. Salute, love. But instead, he was like, no, I want you to be at the celebration. You don't have to play, but you have to be with the team. And I was like, this is not really a celebration for me to qualify for the World Championships. I don't really see the point in celebrating this. This is something that should be every time. You know, for me, I remember after the game in Croatia, this guy came up to me, this Polish reporter, and he's like, is this the biggest success in your career, qualifying? And I looked at him, and I wanted to tell him, no.
Just the beginning.
It's not. It's definitely not, you know? But I was like, yeah, sure, it is. Whatever. Just get out of here, you know? Whatever. I don't know. I feel like it's a door that's kind of like half closed, half open, but it's kind of always been like that. There's been different parts of the national team history where the door was shut and it opened again. I don't want to end my career with the Polish national team this way, but I kind of feel like it's not really in my hands. You know, what all I can do is play basketball and hope that people will appreciate what I did for the Polish national team. I mean, people have to realize that guys in my position, a lot of times when the national team came calling, didn't want to really go, you know, because A, you're not making money, B, you're, you know, you can get hurt, you know, and then it's the people that say, oh, you should have pride of playing for, with the eagle on your chest, right? Zorłem na koszulce, yeah? You should have pride, and yeah, you have pride. You know, I am 100% Polish, and yeah, it has. But looking back at it, it's like, okay, I went to the Polish national team. I got hurt once, which set me back like 6 months in a tournament to before the Eurobasket, which nobody really talked about either. And then now this, you know, treating me like that, where I traveled from China to try to help you guys or us qualify. I'm always happy when the national team has success. I always want the best for my teammates, for the Polish basketball players. And now getting treated like this, you know, it's definitely like a slap in the gut. It's definitely something that doesn't sit well with me, but it's almost like, how can I put this? It's almost like the people that are there, except for Mike, because Mike knows basketball. You got to give it to Mike. They don't know what they're doing. You know, they don't know how things should really be. So I mean, it sucks, but hey, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, I'll play well. Hopefully, I'll get another shot at it. Hopefully, my issues with these people will get resolved, because I feel like I deserve, like every player on the team, you know, they got cars and watches, and then they got their bonus. With me not going to the World Championships because I was hurt, does not, you know, take that off the table. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I wish him nothing but the best, though, even if I don't play.
Now we are playing in the France Basketball League in Limoges. You are in the middle of the table. As I saw, you are at the 8th seed, and I guess it's close to the playoffs. And what are your expectations for this season? The first playoffs, first round, second round. What are expectations and the chances for a team?
Yeah, so we're in the 8th seed now, but we've already played against all of the top teams. So I think we should be able to be like 5th, at least, before the playoff starts. Now we have 14 games in a month and a half. So there's a lot of games because some of the games were canceled because of COVID. So there's going to be a lot of games now. The team is doing well. The guys that had the COVID when I signed came back. Jerry, the guy that I signed for, he was hurt. He's coming back soon. The team is growing. I feel like we're getting a new identity as a team. The vibe is good, and also great news is that I think on the 19th of May, the fans are going to be able to come into the gym from 800 to 1,000 fans a game, which it's going to be fantastic. Can't wait for that. Because Limoges has a very rich basketball history in France. Historically one of the best teams, best fan base. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm enjoying myself, which is very important in Poland. At some points, I didn't feel like I feel now. I feel extremely motivated. Working really hard. The practices are going great. My body's feeling good. The medical staff here on the team is extremely professional. So everything has kind of fallen in place for me to be successful, and I'm hopefully I can help this team, fight in the playoffs and see how far we can go. Looking at the other teams that we lost to, we lost to Asvel, a EuroLeague team, in the French Cup by 2 points, and we played with 7 guys. And we lost to Strasbourg. That was a bad game for us. We didn't play great. And all the other teams that I played against, we've beaten. So I'm optimistic, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm enjoying myself.
How different is to play in this COVID-19 times without fans? I guess that when you are playing abroad, it's easier. But how for you as a player, the game changed?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the COVID thing, at first, I was just happy that we could play. A lot of people couldn't do anything. So when we got the news that, hey, we're going to be able to play without fans, I was like, great, let's just play, because I didn't want to not play, But now, I mean, we miss them. We miss them a lot because they give you energy, or they give you motivation. Sometimes a heckler can give you motivation. And then just playing with fans, also as a veteran player, you kind of know how to take advantage of it. You kind of know when the fans are hot, when you can maybe get a call. So there's certain areas of the game, playing without fans, that makes it a bit different. But just from me personally, I really miss playing with the fans. I got the news like 2 days ago here in France that the fans are coming back, and I'm super hyped. I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. I think for the players and for the fans and for everybody in sports, I mean, coming in and watching live basketball is, for me, is fun. I do it a lot, even when I'm not playing. So as a player, we miss them, and we're looking forward to having them.
Maciej, thank you very much. It was my last question. It was great to talk not only about NBA, but something what's inside about your basketball career and looking at those things from your perspective. I keep my fingers crossed for your podcast. It will be really nice to see it from the player perspective, and I'm really curious about this episode with Freddie Weiss, because once I read article about him, about how he's struggling in his life, and how one situation, one monster dunk could destroy your the way how the fans, how the others looks at you, which is not fair. But probably you remember the goal with Grzegorz Kuszczak from the middle of the court, and one action could destroy you or make you a hero. So I'm really curious about this, and we'll wait for this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good for a lot of people. I think with Frederick being so tall, I don't think it was ever easy for him. I remember when I was tall, growing up, and at one point we got sent down with my dad to the nurse in school, and she asked me if I'm happy being tall, or if they want me, or if they want me to do something so I'll stop growing. And I was just like, "What? I'm good." So just being that height, people don't realize how difficult it is. And then I don't know Frederick personally, but we're gonna meet soon and have a coffee, and I want to have more of a broad kind of understanding. But I think it's important for people to understand that just by itself being tall is difficult. We're extra ordinary people, really. If you're over 215, it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to fit, in society. So
Buying
another
clothes,
guy
shoes, and
that,
so on.
yeah, another guy that I want to get in touch with and talk about this is the guy that I got drafted with, Slavko Vraneš. Slavko was with me when we won the Euro Cup in Onyx 10 years ago. I was kind of rooting for them to win it now, but since they lost, I guess I'm kind of happy too. I don't know. It's strange. Yeah, so Slavko is like 225, and it's not easy being that tall. I remember when we were traveling through Russia and through Europe, people would just take pictures, just taking pictures of him. And it's just like, it's even with me, sometimes people go up to me and are like in shock,
Mm-hmm.
So just by being tall, I think people need to realize that, hey, it's difficult, it's like any other thing when you're a bit abnormal from society. And then Frederick kind of finding himself in basketball and finding something that he was good at, and then that happening to him. Don't get me wrong, it's one of the best dunks in basketball history, but that had to be extremely tough for him. I can't imagine what he had to go through and how he had to deal with that. So that's going to be an interesting topic, which I would speak about, mental health and players, and just giving my kind of feedback over the years that I've played, and the things that have kind of kept me sane in a way, is something that I think we should share as veteran players for the next generation to know that, hey, you're not alone. This is how you can deal with this situation, and I think that the best way for people is just to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use my platform on Instagram to do those things.
Yeah, I think that we are living into times when society starts to look at the mental health as something as another diseases. It's not something like a taboo, and we see in the NBA Kevin Love talking about his depression, Larry Sanders, and so on. And
Yeah.
I think that it's really good that you show this, and showing from the player perspective, especially that when you realize that when you are a player, as you said, there are some privileges, but also some cons about this situation. And one of them is that you've got a lot of pressures, that there are expectations from the fans.
I think a lot of people don't realize what goes into being an athlete. Because if you look at our schedule, we eat, we train hard, and then we rest. And after that, we have a little bit of time of doing other things, but then it's on repeat. And your body, your mind deals with that on an everyday basis. I remember for me, a big wake-up call when it came to this when I was injured, because I'm used to working out every day, and then all of a sudden you stop to work out every day. Your body reacts, your mind reacts, your hormones reacts, because you're used to doing something all the time. It's like with anybody. If you're used to, I don't know what example I can give you, but it's, I don't know. When you're working out, you're using your body, you're using your mind. So you're putting stress on it, and then you're resting. It's just a lot to comprehend. I think that people that don't do it and haven't gone through it, it's like, I was talking to Gortat about this the other day, and just the impact from the court. If you're injured for like a month and you're a heavy player and you're coming back, how difficult it is for your body to adapt back to the impact, and how quickly your body changes when you don't play basketball. Like looking at LeBron's injury now, everybody's like, why is he taking so long? And I know why he's taking so long, because he wants to make sure that it's all good. And now when he's good, he has to adapt his body back to the impact of the court and everything. People think it's just like, oh, you play basketball, it's great, but I think a lot of people have a misconception of what really goes into it, and how much consciously or subconsciously you really have to prepare for, Yeah, so Frederick's going to be, I'm looking forward to that podcast.
And last question, because it's really interesting topic. This the mental problems, or how you need to handle with this in the athletes sports. I'm planning also in May to get a conversation with sports psychologists, and I'm very curious about this. And how, from your perspective, change situation when we are talking about how the sports psychologists help the players from the beginning of your career and now, how it looks like? Do you've got some time spent with the specialists? Do you also work with this? For example, handling the pressure. It's something what we as a fans haven't seen this, but it is.
Yeah. No, it's real. It's real. And I recommend not only to basketball players, I recommend to any human being going to a psychologist. But the definition of psychologist is so misunderstood that it's when I first heard when you're a kid and when you hear somebody's going to the psychologist, you're like, he's messed up, and that's already a misunderstanding of their profession. For me personally, I wish that I would have gone to the psychologist a lot earlier in my career. I started going to the psychologist in Barcelona when I played for Barcelona, right before we won the Spanish league. And it really helped me. And talking to players like, for example, Andres Nocioni, which has been in Baskonia, where the pressure is high, which has played for a lot of, teams with pressure and a lot of situation where basketball is basically everything in your life. He told me that it was the best decision of his life to go to the psychologist. And I think he still does, and a lot of athletes don't understand what that means, because there's like a fear factor to it. Am I messed up? The mental health conversation is so broad, not only for athletes, but for everyday people. And it's such an interesting subject to touch on. Besides the fact that we can talk about a million things, just looking at and presenting it from an athlete standpoint, I think it's important, because it's not the same thing for somebody to go to the psychologist, maybe because, I don't know, they're being bullied at work, or for somebody that's doing extreme physical activity every day, having the pressure of playing for extremely important clubs, and then being in the daily routine. I think the daily routine of an athlete is kind of misunderstood in itself, because at one point you kind of have to be like, oh, I'm playing basketball for a living. How great, right? Mm-hmm. But what people don't understand is how difficult it can be when you get trapped in that cycle, that training cycle of training, eating, sleeping, doing whatever else you're doing, but repeating, because if you look at our schedules in the leagues that we play in, we're basically not part of society. Like today in France is the workers' holiday. Nobody's working today. And after practice, I made a joke. I was like, hey, we're not even supposed to be in here today, And some people were laughing and some people were like, hey, relax,
We are
But,
players.
it was just a joke. But just to put it in perspective, like the schedule of the ACB, which is the Spanish league, is insane. It's absolutely brutal. You play on New Year's, you play on Christmas, there's no breaks, and then you play on Sunday at 12:30, which for me is difficult just because of my week. I mean, Sunday is the last day of your week. I mean, we're used to living on kind of weekly basis in society, and now your day off, if you have a day off, is a Monday, where everybody else is working. It messes with you. It messes with you because you're kind of alone. I mean, you have your other players that are going through the same thing, but I think that going to a psychologist, to a sports psychologist, and talking about your things and getting a different view of how to handle situation, or just getting a different view of whatever you're dealing with at the time is extremely important, because also the way the athlete is portrayed by the kid. Oh, you're great. You're my fan. You're my idol. I'm sorry. You're right. You're portrayed as this strong man, individual man, a successful man, But a lot of people don't realize the things that are going on behind the scenes sometimes. And I feel that us athletes that have gone through it need to really push on that for society to take action and for other leagues to put things in place, because the worst thing for me is seeing guys who have had success and then all of a sudden fall off the map and get into drugs or mess up their life, commit even suicide. Because for me, it's just so sad to see that, bro, you were up there, and you couldn't figure it out. You couldn't figure it out for whatever reason. The pressure got to you, you weren't educated enough, whatever the case may be. It definitely, as an athlete and as a basketballer, saddens me very much. So that's something that I definitely want to be involved in when I'm done playing. And another thing I wanted to say is, looking at the young Polish players that I've saw in the Polish basketball, like the Kolendas and the people that are coming up, in my point of view, because Poland is kind of structured in this weird, I would say, way, or in their own way, I don't know how to put it, like they don't really know who to lean on, who to take advice from. And it's just something that I think that people need to hear, and people need to realize that these next guys are going to be the future of our country, of Polish basketball. And it's extremely important to not have them go through what basically I went through, because I was looked at this guy from Sweden that comes in, he has a different mentality, niewychowany, because I wasn't saying pani, pani, I was just different. They didn't really know how to cope, how to handle me. And that was another experience that I had to go through. I wish that people, not only like Mike D'Antoni was in Phoenix, but other people in other situations would have been there for me. And I think a lot of players go through it. A player's career can be very long, and the same player can change a lot just from one year to another. And it's not fair, in my opinion, to put these narratives on player. Like, I'm reading what's going on with Mike James and the coach of CSK, and what Mike Messina came out with. And in my opinion, I don't know Mike personally, But in my opinion, what the coaches are doing is a bit weak, in my opinion. You know, because for me, okay, it's one thing to get information from other people about a player, right? But in my life, I try to judge a person from the experiences that I've had with that person, you know? So when the Messina thing happened and he let him go, I was like, what's going on? You know? And now when this came out that Messina sent an email and he was asking his other coaches and he didn't like the response and he didn't take a chance on him. To me, it kind of shows a little bit of weakness of you not knowing how to deal with people, because a coach should make you better every year, in my opinion. You know, a coach should make you not only a better basketball player, but a better human being every year, you know, of the way he thinks about different things and the way he approaches the game. And I feel like Mike has been just slammed by one of the legends of European basketball without him even having a real shot, which to me is unfair from a player's point of view, you know? And then looking at what happened in CSKA, I don't know exactly what happened, okay? And, you know, I'm hearing a lot of different things, but I really didn't appreciate when the coach, how he was doing the interviews after they had the dispute. Always on the defensive side, always like, you know me, you know the tradition. Listen, man, players go through their things. It's not easy for Americans to play in Europe, like it's not easy for Europeans to play in the United States, you know? So whenever situations like this occur that are badly handled, because that's what they are, they're badly handled on whatever side, is something that nobody really wants to see, because a lot of times when you're a coach of power on a good team, you can basically end somebody's career by giving your opinion about that person on that day because you're feeling some type of way. And I feel like coaches need to take more responsibility with that, because players evolve, players change, humans make mistakes. You know, we all go through stuff in our personal life, and I feel it's a little bit unfair for him to say the thing he said about ethics and when he keeps going on about the situation with him. I just feel like it's a little bit of it's weak on his part, in my opinion.
No, but many times it's really difficult to find the coach who is not only treated like a part of your roster, but who take care about you as a person. I remember that once the journalist asked Saros Jasikevičius about his leader. It was a play or some
Lima.
Yes, and it was really important.
Yeah, when he went to see his birth of his child.
Yes,
that's just something normal that a guy with experience said to a normal question. But in the basketball world, it was like a shock because of basically bad habits from other coaches. Because if you think about it, the coach's job is to win, right? If you don't win, you get fired. But when you look at the best coaches, they're not scared to lose, you know, because they understand that, okay, this is basketball. We're going to try to play the right way, blah, blah. But there's more to life than this, you know. And when you have that, then nobody can really mess with you, because you understand, like, the things that Mike went. I don't know exactly what happened when his grandmother died and if he could leave or he couldn't leave. But I've been through situations myself where, you know, my dad was in the hospital and I was asked, hey, can I go one day? And they were like, no, you can't go. Or, you know, it's just like a lot of times on these European teams, they try to treat you like you're still in high school, have to eat together, you know, like in Szczecin. Szczecin was ridiculous, man. We had to come in, wait for everybody to get seated. The captain had to ask the coach. The coach had to give confirmation back to the captain. Now we can get up and eat. And the same thing before leaving to go up. I mean, come on, man. What's going to change if we just eat and leave when we want to leave? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But for them, because one guy did it 25 years ago, and they're still, oh, it has to be like this, because if it's not like this, then maybe some, it's just like
spirit.
Oh yeah, so people evolve, and players and coaches go through their personal things, and I just feel like I really hope Mike James just sticks with the Nets and wins the NBA championships, and it's like continues his career in the NBA, because I can completely see what he's going through.
He's doing a good job. Last game, 11 points, 8 assists. So I hope that he will stay longer.
Yeah, all right, man. It was good chatting to you.
Maciej, thank you very much for joining my podcast. Have a nice game tomorrow, right?
After tomorrow, on Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a joy evening.
Yeah, bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, thanks.